Imagine if someone told you there is a home out there where evil never left. What would you think? Would you believe them? Perhaps not. But what if I told you such a place really existed and we can visit it today? Yep. There's a place called the Amityville Horror House still standing on Long Island, New York. And although it's been decades since the heinous acts committed inside, some believe that the home is still cursed. Want to hear the story? Well, let's go. It all started back in 1974 when a young man named Ronald DeFeo Jr. woke up early one morning and decided to do something terrible. He went into his parents' bedroom and shot them. Then he did the same thing to his 3 younger brothers and sisters. He didn't stop there. He then went downstairs and killed his father's girlfriend and his own girlfriend. In total, he murdered 6 people that day. But why? That's not certain. But he was later found guilty of all charges and sentenced to 6 consecutive jail terms of 25 years each. That's why. But the thing is, the house where all these horrific events occurred still stands, and many claim it's haunted by the ghosts of those who were murdered there. Now, you may have heard the story before, but trust me, we're going to tell it like you've never heard it before. A few months after the murders, George and Kathy Lutz decided to buy the home for a steal. They had no idea that their new home had recently played host to a brutal massacre. It wasn't until they moved in and started experiencing strange things that they learned about what happened there. As soon as they stepped foot in the house, weird things began to happen around them. One day, while watching TV, they heard strange voices coming from the television static. Some of the voices seemed angry, while others sounded sad and mournful. Other times, they'd hear heavy footsteps above them when nobody was there. At night, strange figures would appear at the foot of their bed, staring at them with glowing red eyes. They felt an overwhelming sense of dread, panic, and fear, causing them to flee the room in terror. Other times, objects would move on their own. They'd find chairs overturned, lamps knocked off the tables, and other signs of disturbance that they couldn't explain. One time, they found a door in the basement that was locked from the outside open. Strangely, when they checked it during the day, it was locked tight. One day, George's sister came over for dinner and noticed that her engagement ring, which she took off before entering the house, was on the table in the kitchen. She didn't remember putting it there, but it was definitely hers. Another time, their daughter woke up in the middle of the night and went to get a drink of water. As she walked down the dark hallway towards the kitchen, she saw the apparition of a little girl in a Victorian nightgown standing at the end of the hall. There were also other more subtle paranormal events that happened in the house. For example, the temperature in the bedrooms would drop several degrees at night, causing them to huddle under the covers. Sometimes they could smell strange odors coming from the walls, like rotting flesh and decay. One time, while trying to fix a leaky pipe in the basement, George fell through the floorboards and landed in a dark pit. When he climbed out, he noticed that the hole in the floorboards had appeared out of nowhere. And then there were the demonic faces. George and Kathy began to see demonic faces peering at them from the windows, doors, and even walls. The faces seemed distorted and evil, and they always appeared when they were alone. They tried everything to get rid of the faces, including closing the blinds, turning off the lights, and even boarding up the windows. But the faces still appeared, taunting them with their evil grins. Of course, being reasonable people, they put up with this sort of thing for only a few weeks before deciding that they needed to get out of the house. One night, while they were having dinner, they saw the demon faces appear in the windows. They fled the house and never returned. In fact, they abandoned the home so quickly that they left most of their furniture behind, including their beds, dressers, and even television. They also left behind their cat, which they heard meowing frantically in the basement as they escaped. Now, to add to this already bizarre tale, George and Kathy weren't the only ones to experience strange activity in the home. The previous owner, Peter Levitt, had also had a run-in with the paranormal. One day, while watering the lawn, he felt an unseen force push him to the ground. When he looked up, he saw the apparition of a man in a top hat and tails standing on the porch. But the mystery doesn't end there. Before Levitt, another family had lived in the home and they too had experienced strange phenomena. One day, a young boy who lived in the house was playing in the yard when he disappeared without a trace. His body was never found, and nobody knows what happened to him. So, what's really going on in this house? Is it haunted by the ghosts of those who died there? Or is it all just a hoax? Let's take a look at both sides of the story. On one hand, we have the fact that strange things have been happening in the house since 1945. 3 different families have lived in the home, and all of them have experienced strange activity. There are also plenty of stories from visitors who have also had their share of paranormal encounters in the house. However, there's also the possibility that all of this is just a hoax. After all, the first family to move in after the murders made up a lot of the stories that are now associated with the home. They wrote a book about their experiences in the home, which became a bestseller and was later turned into a movie. Of course, this doesn't mean that everything they wrote was false, but it does cast doubt on some of the more outlandish claims. For example, the story of the little girl who appeared at the end of the hallway has never been verified, and the same goes for the story of the boy who disappeared in the yard. These stories could be true, but they could also be part of the legend that has grown up around the house over the years. The truth is, we may never know what really happened in the Amityville Horror House, but one thing is for sure. It's a story that has captured the imaginations of people around the world. And speaking of the story, let's talk about how it became so popular in the first place. Well, it all started when the first family to move into the house after the murders wrote a book about their experiences. The book was a bestseller and was later turned into a movie. Since then, there have been dozens of books and movies about the Amityville Horror House. So, what's the verdict? Is the Amityville Horror House haunted, or is it all just a hoax? Well, that's up for you to decide. There's no denying that strange things have happened in the house over the years. But whether you believe that it's haunted or not depends on your own beliefs. If you believe in ghosts, then you probably believe that the Amityville Horror House is haunted. If you don't believe in ghosts, then you probably think that the whole thing is a hoax. Either way, it's a fascinating story that has captured the public imagination. What do you think happened in the Amityville Horror House? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more spooky stories. Thanks for watching, happy Halloween, and see you next time. Hey guys, do you believe in ghosts? Let me know in the comments, and if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to check out my other content.